with Faraz Shaukat.
And a wonderful morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And today it marks 70 years of parliamentary democracy. And we have a wonderful guest this morning to discuss that. But before that, I'd like to, I think today it won't be complete without mentioning the absolutely tragic events that have taken place in Las Vegas and the absolutely dastardly act there in which approximately 200 people are reported to be dead and several more injured. And all they were doing was attending a music concert. So thoughts are there at this moment of crisis in Las Vegas. So let me introduce our guest this morning. It's there's a member of Parliament, former member of Parliament, minister, and also, very importantly, former chairman of COPE, the parliamentary watchdog. Right here in person is none other than Mr. D. Gunasekara. Very good morning to you, Mr. Gunasekara.
Good morning, sir.
So the question is, 70 years of parliamentary democracy, and there will be a special sitting of Parliament today to mark that. But before all that, apart from this 70 years, it's also the 100th birth anniversary of Mr. Peter Kenneman, the only burgher
Our leader.
to be elected, and the leader at one time of the Communist Party in Sri Lanka. And I think lastly, Mr. Peter Kenneman held the position of Minister of Housing and Construction. And 100 years, a wonderful man, was described as a smiling face but an unrivaled political force. Is that apt, those words, to describe Peter Kenneman?
I think yes, that is an apt description made by one of his colleagues, T.B. Langaratna.
I see. Tell me this. How is Sri Lanka's parliamentary democracy, 70 years in the making now, how is it faring? Is it something that we should be proud about?
I think high time is for evaluation, because it evolved over a period of time.
Right.
And it's starting from 1883, Colebrook Commission reports, a legislative council, and then in 1931 with the adult franchise.
Yeah.
And gradually evolved, and after the Dominion status, in 1947, the parliament, real parliament with powers, monetary powers, financial powers. Earlier councils didn't have the financial powers.
Right, right.
But in 1947, really the financial powers. From there on, now 70 years are complete by 2017.
Yeah.
So I think, but as an infant parliamentary democracy, at that time, 1940s, when we were students, that is it's a source of say admiration, and for us, as an infant democracy, it was thriving very well. But when you have to respond to your question, for 70 years, can we be satisfied?
Yes.
It has gone, I don't know, on the deteriorating side.
Has it been derailed?
Is that
what you're trying to say?
So I know a number of other factors have contributed, so we can analyze and see.
Right. Well, what about speakers in this 70 years?
I think we had speakers who we were proud of.
Yeah.
First speaker, Molamure.
Yes.
Then we were students. We have not seen him, but we are from Hansard. We have seen.
Yeah.
Very strict disciplinarian, and there was no, After that, Shirley Correa was there.
Yeah.
And H.S. Smile was there in 1959 under Bandaranaike regime. And, and from there onwards, we had K.B. Ratnaik, another smart speaker. And Andrew Bandaranaike, with all his faults, he was shining very well. And he gave a sort of landmark judgment.
And remind me, what was that?
That was what, it's Sarath Silla found fault with, if I remember correct, Chief Justice. Tried to sort of enter into the parliamentary process. As Chief Justice. And he made a remarkable, landmark judgment. He says, Supreme Court cannot interfere into our work, Parliament. Parliament is supreme.
I see.
Supreme, the sovereignty lies in the Parliament.
And therefore, that's because...
Even the judges, they derived the power of the supremacy through the Parliament.
I see.
And the Parliament is the supreme. So that judge is...
Not bad for Mr. Bandaranaike then. Like you say, with all his faults.
I mean, we can... And unfortunately, the son of two Prime Ministers, but never got so fortunate to become the Prime Minister.
I think that was his own fault.
Although,
so, who were these?
Then there is Stanley Ratna.
Yes.
He's one of my teachers who taught me constitutional law. And he was a very good speaker.
Right. Now then, so what is the role of speaker?
Role of the speaker is, as a student of political science, they say speaker shall not speak. But our speaker continues to speak. And that is why I think the speaker loses his authority if you are going to speak. I mean, with due regard, I was mentioned, and Chamal Rajapaksa, and he never spoke.
He never spoke. So is that a good thing?
And he wielded authority. And complete silence at that time when he comes to the bench. Today is not there. Today's speaker can't control the members, MPs.
Today's speaker also appears to have...
No, he is a very gentleman, one of the... I have the highest regard for him.
Yes, but can you be a gentleman and be speaker?
Very difficult.
Difficult. But I've heard that Chamal is a gentleman.
I also one person who missed the speaker post by one vote.
Oh, I see.
I don't know how I would have behaved.
But Mr. Jayasuriya, as you say, a gentleman, widely believed
gentleman par excellence.
Right. But then, what's his problem? There was the Provincial Council's Amendment Act, before that. It originally gazetted just one sheet of paper, one tiny little question. Right? When it came back there to Parliament, there was 33 pages.
And 31 amendments.
Yes, so I mean, that sounds very unfair.
That is why I say there is a rape of democracy.
A rape of democracy.
At least MPs should have been given some more time to study. How can you? All of a sudden, when 31 amendments come up on your mind, how can you study? There is no time.
So it was just a rush job. Do you think?
So that is really the Prime Minister. We must hold the Prime Minister and the Leader of the House responsible for it. Finally, as far as the people are concerned, they will put the whole thing on the Speaker.
Yes.
Who will speak as the custodian of Parliament.
Yes. We're trying to play a clip which is relevant to one of the questions I'm going to ask you, but we'll play that clip shortly as soon as I get it ready. But in the meantime, I want to ask you this as a former chairman of CORP. We had Mr. Sunil Handanetti, who said recently that if you are caught lying to CORP, you'll be in serious trouble. What's your take on that?
Trouble in the sense this way, Parliament of course is not a part of the judiciary, but we are guided by the standing orders.
Right.
And CORP is part and parcel of the Parliament.
Right.
Because the Parliament as a whole, they elect the CORP.
Yeah.
And really the chairman of the CORP functions, he plays the role of the Speaker as far as the CORP is concerned. right?
Right.
And if you have found, if anyone is have been lying,
Yeah.
In my own way, what I would do, I think the speaker, the chairman of the COP can report him to the parliament and charge him with contempt of parliament. Right? It amounts to contempt of parliament. Contempt of line. It has never happened.
But it can.
It can. That is, my interpretation of standing order that it can.
Now, 70 years on, right? I really want to ask you this question, and then we're greeted with all sorts of amendments and all sorts of things. This constitution is, they tried to pass the 20th Amendment as well, right? And the Supreme Court had something to say about that. Well, do you think that the people really care about this whole constitutional amendments and the electoral process and so on? Or do people really care about roads and the cost of living? Because it appears that the politicians are robbing the treasury. It's not a question of raping of democracy. They're raping the treasury and bleeding it dry. And they seem to be in an indecent hurry to keep the pan warm, so to speak. Isn't that what is happening? These people are robbing. They're robbing blind, right? And the people are frustrated. The prices are going up. Coconut is up to 100 rupees, for heaven's sake. They're selling halves of coconut. What do you think? What's your take on that?
The corruption is today become a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
So it's same in all parliament now. You find, if you look around, you find so many prime ministers, presidents, and others languishing in jails.
Yeah.
Right? South Korean president woman.
Yeah.
And recently Thailand, the prime minister woman.
Yes.
And she's out of the country.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
So even last week there was an international conference of what you call Interpol.
Yeah.
And there in that conference it emerged that the corruption is gradually becoming one of the international challenges, like the, say, international terrorism. Right?
Yes.
So that is one thing. So coming back to your problem, yes, as far as our concern,
yeah.
And what is the role of the MP? There are three roles.
Yeah. First
thing is basically a legislator.
Yeah.
And no one functions as a legislator. And no one, they think that no MP thinks that he is a legislator. The purpose of electing him to parliament is to legislate.
Right.
No one reads even the bills which have been passed.
But some of them,
right,
a significant amount, don't have O-levels.
In O-level we had Themises, but right, they were very good MPs. The postal peer in 1956, MS Themis, but he was well trained in the trade union struggle, and he learned his politics through the struggle. And he performed very well in the parliament. It's not the question of literacy.
Yeah. Talking about people who lie and people who, who are not being legislators, as you say. Let me play this little clip, because after we play this clip, I have a question for you. Here we go.
I'll tell you this, it may be hard to go on these roads now, but when we come into power, we will fix them. I can't fix them without the Pradeshya Sabhas. You give us the power and I provide the money. Tell the people that the Pradeshya Sabhas do not come under our purviews. Those are not our roads. We only have the roads that are under the purview of Minister Kiriyalla. Give it to us and we will fix them.
Now then, that's our dear Prime Minister saying, in essence, that if you vote for us, we'll build you the roads. Right. Now then, what is the difference between that statement by the Prime Minister?
Corruption lies there.
Yes, but I want to ask you this. What's the difference between that statement and and what happened in the matter of the Sil Reddy case? Lalit Veeratunga and Anusha Palpita were convicted because they misused the funds of the TRC, and the judge noted that they didn't benefit from it personally, right? There was no evidence of that. But they were nevertheless convicted, and that appeared to be to do with election promises. They helped, the beneficiary there was a person contesting the presidential election, Mahinda Rajapaksa. These two people went to jail for that. Yeah. So that statement there, just now that we heard, was Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe saying in a sense the same thing. You spend your money, we'll spend the money, we'll give you the roads, you vote for us. So isn't that the same thing? The other guy said, you vote for us, I'll give you Sil Reddy.
No, I find a difference. Ranil is a politician.
Yeah.
And Lalit and others are officials.
Yes, but
Lalit is he's head of the public service.
Yeah.
Governed by financial regulations and other things.
Yeah.
And he's the chief accounting officer.
Yeah.
Right. So therefore, there is the main thing is his commitment is there.
Yeah.
Here is a politician means you are corrupt. If you say in that vote for us, we will give you roads, means that you are really corrupting the people, corrupting the voters. This is one of the fundamental things that we have brought it to notice. The politicians continue to corrupt the people. So there's not only now the politicians getting corrupted, even the voters are getting corrupted.
Right.
And being corrupted by the politicians. And this is a process. So that's a very
it's astonishing that 40 years as a member of parliament, 23 years as the leader of the United National Party, and 4 times, this is his 4th term as Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. Now, you'd imagine that he is not, he shouldn't be saying things like, well, vote for us and we'll give you the road.
It amounts to rape of democracy. On the day of the 70th anniversary of parliamentary democracy.
Yeah. It's a very serious matter.
Yeah. That has been done by everyone. Every politician does go to when you go to hustings, you say, right, with us we will vote.
So then they must all be charged in the same way.
I think then we'll have to make some amendments in the election laws. You can't make such promises.
Because it's tantamount to what?
Corruption.
Corruption. It is corruption.
Yeah.
It's not tantamount, but...
So when the voter decides, I am voting, because now he promised me that he would give a road.
Yeah.
It's not bad. The MP has been sent for its purpose is to make him a legislator.
Not to be...
And also a policy maker.
Yeah.
And also he is a man who is in charge, who was expected by the people's mandate to oversee the expenditure of the parliament. One of the MP's role is to see that the money is properly spent. And all these 3 functions MPs have forgotten. That he is a legislator, that he is expected to frame policies for the government, for the country, and third, supervise the expenditure. These are the 3 roles of the parliament, MP. None of the MPs are performing these functions.
Yesterday we heard Arjuna Mahendran at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the issuance of bonds by the Central Bank. We heard Arjuna Mahendran say in cross-examination that he got his instructions to change the way bonds were issued by the Prime Minister 3 days before that controversial bond issue took place. Now then, the Auditor General says, is on record, that was not the least cost method of issuing bonds. He also said something else, even though he's not a lawyer, or his role is that of an auditor general, right? He did say something that we must bear in mind. He said that just because the Prime Minister says it, it doesn't become law. So what he was also trying to say, it follows therefore that Mr. Mahendran didn't follow procedure. His line minister, the subject of the central bank, is listed under the Prime Minister's other role as Minister of National Policy Planning. Now then, the proper procedure would have been that when the minister says, well, I think you should change the system, or I want the system changed, the next step would have been to get approval from the Monetary Board. And from there onwards, the governor of the central bank can go and have as the governor, he can then go and have the Monetary Board's approval implemented. But he bypassed that bit. And he went on some solo misadventure because his friend and the line minister, Mr. Wickramasinghe, asked him to do that. No. And he admits it yesterday.
Yes, he admits, no doubt. First he made that statement before me under oath.
There you are.
In the court.
There you are.
Right, I was the first. I examined and cross-examined him for 2 days.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing, he made the same statement, no doubt. That is why, can you remember, Prime Minister at one stage issued a statement to the COP chairman is not summoning me.
Yeah.
My name is being dragged, he is not summoning me. I told you, I did not summon him for no purpose.
Why is that?
Because first thing, it's got a standing order, the chairman, I can't summon ministers.
Right.
I can summon only the officials.
Right.
If a minister has to summon, he can be summoned only by the speaker at the house.
Right.
Once I report to you.
Right.
So that is the main thing. The other thing is, I come to the second point, that even if the line minister had told him,
yeah,
right, he shouldn't have, because he had not obtained the Monetary Board sanction by the time, before the auction.
Right.
He got the hovering approval. Right. The other thing is, the governor why was he brought all the way from Singapore? And Prime Minister thought that he is an expert superstar economist and ideal man to handle the central bank. And it is this man who briefed Prime Minister and rest of the cabinet to go for the going for the new system, auction system. He, not the Prime Minister. He convinced them. He persuaded the Prime Minister. He is the man who did it.
So why is the Prime Minister saying that he...
Prime Minister is, he knows nothing about this bond issue. Basic principles he didn't know, although he is a line minister. Right? I fully agree with the Auditor General.
Yeah.
And if you take, that is why the Monetary Board had decided on 2 types of, one is an auction, the other is a direct system.
Yes.
Now, when you want money immediately, the treasury has gone dry.
Yeah.
I want some immediate money.
Yeah.
Then there's provision to go for direct.
Yeah.
Already, because there is the People's Bank on there, National Savings Bank on there, the Bank of Sri Lanka on there, the EPF there. On the phone, there was provision in the monetary law,
yeah,
to contact all the 16 leaders.
Yeah.
And then also, on the basis of the prevailing rate of interest,
yeah,
you can borrow money.
Right.
That is the thing that they have provided for in the monetary law. And you can go for auction for loan term, no doubt. Right? But here, the charge is not only going to auction. He interfered in the whole process. And that is the charge. It's not the question of the auction. There's no problem in going for auction.
Yeah.
But what they have gone much against the wishes of the debt management officers, and he walked into the place and he gave directions. When the notice is there to only borrow 1 billion, he gave the order that no, borrow 10 billion. No, his first order was go for 20 billion.
20 billion.
And Mrs. Chandra prevailed upon her and stopped it and by 10.
Yes, Mrs. Deepa.
That is what was the motive behind the governor's performance?
Right.
What is the motive?
What is the motive?
You can't pass it out to the Prime Minister saying, no, my Line Minister gave and I carried out. No. Even if he gives, he can't. Because he has go to the Monetary Board must approve. Monetary Board has not given the approval, and Monetary Board, he only put up a paper and got the covering approval. That is what I think that the Monetary Board had failed there.
Just we need to remind our viewers that it's just SMSs in here on 0772 300 305. Please don't call it because it's only for SMSs. Now then, Mr. Duke Gunasekara, is it acceptable for these legislators, well, as you say, that's what they're supposed to be doing, legislators, is it acceptable for them to lie, blatantly lie? Is it?
You put in a moral question.
Well, I'm putting you a question. Is it right for them to lie? Here we have. I'm going back to this. Lalit Veeratunga and Mr. Papita, 600 million rupees, right? That's the sum. Okay, and then they didn't profit from it themselves. That's what the judge says. Okay, but in the case of the roads, in the case of just the Central Expressway Section 3 alone, it's $1 billion. When you add it's over $1 billion, because just the construction cost alone is 134 billion, right? And then there's interest and there's land acquisition, arbitration and all that business, right? And it's a commercial loan, so the interest rate's higher. And then you have this person, 40 years a parliamentarian, 23 years as leader of the United National Party, 4th time round as Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, saying, you vote for us, we'll fix the roads. It's $1 billion. The other two gents were 600 million rupees. It's less than petty cash. Is that right? Is that the kind of parliamentary democracy we want?
It is reduced to that now. Parliamentary democracy.
It's been reduced to that. Are you glad that you're out of there?
No, I'm of course I'm out of it, but I feel so sorry. But I expected the present parliament to be better than the previous parliament after the general election.
Yeah.
But my hopes have been completely shattered.
Hopes have been completely shattered
because a large number of young and educated people are there, but no, they are not performing their role. I don't know. They are not. You are speaking of the illiterate. I am not speaking of the illiterate. In the literate people, academics are there. And you take the last 2.5 years. What is our biggest problem at the moment the government is facing? The biggest debt trap. We are in debt trap.
Yeah, we're an IMF.
There are, three crises interrelated. That is the main thing: the deficit crisis, the exchange crisis, and the debt crisis. And we have logically the outcome is we have got into a debt trap. Right? Had there been last 3 years or 2.5 years in a parliament debate on the debt, what is the nature of the debt? What is the cause of this debt? And this goes back to 1978. I don't put the blame on this government or the previous government. That is a fact. This is completely ignored by the media. This is the original sin of J.R. Jayawardena. 1978, when he introduced the neoliberal policies, he completely did away with the whole taxation system. He abolished all the taxes and reduced the income tax to barest minimum. And therefore, when Dr. N. M. Perera had over when he resigned, the government revenue was 24% of the GDP. And no one, I have been repeatedly telling this in Parliament and Cabinet, no one tells it. 24%, today it reduced to 10%. With 10% of GDP, how can you have the free education? How can have free health services? How can do all that? Nothing.
But they found money for the Central Expressway. $1 billion.
You get everything on loan, no borrowing, no. That is why you are getting more and more, you getting trapped, no. That is why even today the so-called IMF, which prescribed that taxation policy in 1978, today new IMF, they demanded the government to now go back to the original, and even telling the new finance minister to raise on that 80 and 20,
yes,
to change for 65 and 35.
That's right.
Or 60 and 45. You are putting the direct taxes reduced to barest minimum 20, indirect taxes paid to the consumer.
Indeed.
And Ravi Karunanayaka, he increased from 80 to 92 within that 1.5 years.
But he was the best finance minister.
Best finance minister from the point of neoliberalism. And Ronnie, whatever is I have great, he never allowed privatization until he left the finance minister. He never allowed.
Dear Gunasekara, it's been wonderful having you here to mark 70 years of parliamentary democracy today, and on the day that Peter Kenneman would have been 100 years. Thank you very much, Mr. Dear Gunasekara. And that's it from Newsline. Take care. God bless.